So to start with, what is gamification? So there is one way of teaching called the big game-based teaching, where literally there would be a game being played, like a simulation kind of thing, or with the help of software, a game being designed and trying to teach something through that game. But gamifying uh, it's adapting the elements of game to the to a topic in our curriculum and try to reach the students and make that session interesting and engaging through these elements of games. So gamification is integrating the mechanics of games, the mechanics of games being reward, a challenge being posed, a reward being given, which in turn motivates the learners to be interested in the topic that we teach. So gamifying is different from a game-based teaching where literally a game is used to teach something. But here we are handling a topic in the curriculum with the elements of games, and that is called gamification. So we use game design elements in a non-game context. So delivering a topic from the curriculum to a set of students in the classroom is a non-game context. But we are going to adapt, we are going to include or integrate these game design elements to teach a topic from the syllabus to the students. So what are these game-based elements? What are the elements of a game? They are points, badges, levels, leaderboards, where we could compare who is in the first position or the second position, challenges, rewards, progress bars, and feedback. All these are common elements in a game, and all these elements would be used in the teaching of a topic that is called gamification. So now, why do we need gamification? Why we should try or experiment with gamification? Because the benefits that we draw are pretty good as per the research going on. It helps actually to overcome the challenges that most of the teachers face in the class, where we could see the students are not motivated. The low motivation is the greatest challenge to any teacher, and the student being not actively participating in interaction, or that they are remain passive, and because of this passive nature, the interaction between the teacher and the student gets limited. And all beyond this, along with this, another important challenge that the teacher faces nowadays is they are unable to grasp the attention of the students. Their attention span is very short because of so many reasons. And the students also have a lot of fear or peer pressure, so they remain silent or passive. So these are the challenges that we face in a classroom. And we would like to overcome, as I said, through several, adopting through several approaches, even eclectic approach, which is a combination of two or three approaches put together to suit the need. Also, we teachers try. So among these several approaches, this gamification also helps to overcome these challenges. So when we adopt this gamification, when we gamify our teaching, it improves the motivation because that of the game elements, they get interested and they are actively participating as a group, and so the engagement level is also increasing. Since it's a teamwork, no game is played mostly all the games are played as a team. So our gamification also will have teams, and they would be working together, promoting the collaborative skill of the students. And of course, the badges and rewards are just an enjoyment to the students. And then along with these gaming elements, continuous feedback would also be given, which is like a coach telling the game players how to do handle a ball or how to defend or attack. As we could see coach doing it as the game is progressing, like a game like football. Same thing can be done in our approach of gamifying a topic. So all these are the benefits of gamification of our teaching. And there are a lot of research being done on these benefits, how it suits adult learners or students in higher education institutions. So how can we integrate gamification into teaching? Uh, we have to start with by setting the objectives clearly. The objectives of these classes sessions need to be very clear. So based on this objective only, other things will be planned. And then design a gamified instructional model has to be designed that will help us to achieve the objectives. For example, if the objective is to teach a student how to write a letter of motivation, then accordingly, a model of teaching this a letter of motivation has to be designed as per that in line with the topic that we have planned to convey. And then in that design, we should include the game elements, as I said earlier, like badges, winning a badge or reward, or and then a leadership board being displayed so that people could see who is going fast and who is getting the first position and who is in second position. All these game elements need to be included in the design. And after that, as the game proceeds, that as the design is being executed, we should take care to include, we should also be including that feedback part of that delivering the content where feedback being given to them in the form of game elements so that they could know how they are progressing and what has to be done. And this progress has to be at the learning progress. They engage in a game and then learn something. For example, as I said, the example of letter of motivation. Even before going on to teaching the elements of the components of letter of motivation, we could start by saying that could you tell me different types of official letters that we write in a workplace? So to decide which team has a advantage of getting any tip or a badge, this question can be posted to the class, and whichever team comes first with the answer correctly would be with more types of official letters. That team will be rewarded, and that team will have an advantage of choosing going to the next level. So likewise, our topic has to be divided into segments and sections, and the students should be made to cross this level through their learning and understanding of the topic to gain an advantage, upper hand over other teams. So this competitive nature and the applying the knowledge they have learned in real life context helps them to be engaged, not to remain passive in the class. So the students would compete themselves in listing out the different official letters that are there in the workplace scenario. And then the team that has mentioned more number, maybe five or six official types of official letters, would be declared as winner and will be displayed in the board. And then they will get an advantage to move on to the second level. So the first level is writing down different types of letters that are used in the official setup. And the second one, they move on so that they proceed with that execution of whatever they have learned about letter of motivation. For example, they can move on from the opening sentence. So that team will have the advantage of getting keywords that can be used in the opening of the letter of motivation. So they will use those keywords to frame sentences, and they have got more time to frame it. The team that comes next will be having lesser time to use the keywords and convert that into a paragraph. Once that opening paragraph is done, a feedback will be given, And again, they unlock the second level of going to the next paragraph of the letter of motivation, or next component of letter of motivation, like telling a story that happened before getting admitted to the college, what happened in their school level stage, which led them to the college and which leads them to the position that they want to apply. Connecting all the dots, the reason and the motivation they've had in life to pursue a particular course and apply for a particular position. So all this, the storytelling in letter of motivation could be the next level, which the students should pass through by identifying the keywords to be written in an opening sentence, or the words that design the tone of the letter. So by picking up the right words, they move on to the next level and have an advantage over others. So this is briefly I have explained one scenario of how to gamify, how to integrate elements of games to our teaching of a topic. That is called gamification. So we can have quiz competitions, vocabulary missions, writing challenges, achievement badges, all these things to make them engaged, feel engaged in the topic that we are teaching. So now the key elements of gamification I have explained earlier. What are the elements? They are first one, points. It helps to track the progress of the learning. So the more the points, the better the learning is. The student would be displaying their learning through activities. Their knowledge about the topic can be assessed through their success in their activities. And if they do that successfully, points are credited to them. So points are one key element of gamification. Badges, so badges can be when they go on adding up points and reach to a level of gaining maybe 25 points or 30 points. So we can fix it in when we design the gamification of a topic. Badges can be given to them to recognize achievement. So they are appreciated for the efforts they have put in immediately in front of other students. And this is done as a part of learning. This is the part of the gamification of a topic. And then levels. So they should cross this level to the second level and third level, so that as they go deeper into applying the knowledge they have gained about the topic, so that that levels, as they pass the levels, they are also learning about the topic. For example, they are learning the first level, what are the different types of letters, official letters written in a workplace context. They are learning different types when they try to answer this question with the help of internet, of course, or through discussion. Uh, they learn different types of letters, more letters, types of letters to get more marks. So a learning also takes place simultaneously with the student's initiation. It's not like passively sitting and listening to a lecture. Instead, the student themselves go and find out what it is, discuss and learn from the websites or books, and then move on into different levels with gaining more points. And challenges, of course, so that to make that game interesting as they proceed the levels. If they go on smoothly, that it won't be interesting to them to proceed. So challenges will be created by the teacher while designing the game, which would make the team to think a while and discuss and collaborate and find out to come a way out of the challenge to move on to the next level. So challenge is one key element of gamification. And leaderboards, where leaderboards are the one which helps the learners to know in which position they are in now, whether they are having that adequate points, are they moving in that level as it is expected, whether they are able to overcome the challenge, whether they are placed first or second or third. This leaderboards help them to know that. It encourages participation, but seeing the team popping up among other teams is a real motivation to themselves to proceed further with a lot of interest and to get more points and move on with different levels. So once all these are set up. There comes the rewards where we will be declaring that this team has successfully covered these many levels and achieved that goal. So the rewards would be given, declaring that need not be in the terms of money or gift. It can be declaring the class that this team has cleared all the levels and emerged successful. So along with that reward, a feedback be given to immediately to tell that this part was missing, this part the team has skipped, this part that the team has not mentioned is that answering or in their approach to solve the problem. So that feedback also helps them to reinforce whatever they have learned. So these are the key elements of gamification which can be adopted. It's not restricted to any particular subject. It can be used in language teaching. It can be used in science, technology, or engineering, mathematics. It can be used in any field of education. This helps a lot to make the students get interested in the topic being taught in the class. So now we come to the benefits and drawbacks of gamification in teaching. So benefits, I have been telling from the beginning, it helps a lot in gaining them in getting motivate the students. It engages them very actively, and it improves their confidence since they are winning points and moving on in the levels. It makes the student feel confident. So it is beneficial to teachers also. There are a lot of benefits where we have the students being interactively or actively participating in the classroom activity, and the progress that they make can be monitored. So it becomes easy for to monitor how they progress from one level to the other, and it can lead to a lot of opportunities to give feedback and make them understand the points that they missed and the points that they have learned can easily be explained to them through this gamification method. So it is a great benefit to both student and teacher. So shall we declare that it has no drawback at all? No, it has its own drawbacks. So the key drawbacks of gamification is uh, they lose that intrinsic motivation. Students tend to lose intrinsic motivation if a lot of emphasis is given on the badges, rewards, and the points, because these are all external motivation. If this is missing, the students will be proceeding the learning with their own intrinsic motivation, and they would motivate themselves so that they progress in their learning. So that loss of intrinsic motivation is there in the in gamification of teaching. And another drawback is that it leads to stress because the students feel the compulsion of moving forward and to have a upper hand above other teams, to be displayed in the leaderboard that they are the winners, they are the one who are exceeding others' way of playing, and they are in the top level. To attain that, they undergo a lot of stress sometimes, and a competition develops. Of course, it is needed. People say healthy competition needed, sometimes this gamification might push that border a little higher so that they become more competitive than being collaborative, so that they want to win the game at any cost. So this might lead to unhealthy competition. There is a scope of that having that toxic competitive environment rather than a supportive one. There is a possibility. That is one key drawback identified in this method of teaching. And then to make the students as a group understand each level and progress with points, that simplification of concept is essential. Otherwise, they cannot progress from one level to other level. To achieve that, it has to be done. So this might lead to oversimplification because we need a quick responses from the students. And this quick responses or rote memorization may be needed to make a progress. So indirectly, it might promote this rote memorization because they are forced to give a quicker response so that things have to be simplified, oversimplified. So, which is not suitable actually for higher education students. So, the subjects that demand deep critical thinking and reflection it would be very difficult to accommodate that for gamification. So, the subjects that are very complex and demand a lot of deep critical thinking uh, cannot fit much into this gamification method of teaching. So that because it demands the gamification of teaching demands oversimplification of concepts. And then getting distraction cannot be avoided because a lot of things are happening. They have to discuss, they have to make a decision. They might get distracted because of this game mechanics can act as a distraction where students become more interested in um, mm, the signs that the instructor or teacher is giving, like bells or whistles of the game, rather than the educational context. So, as soon as the whistle blows, we have to submit this answer. So, their focus would might get prioritize this whistle and the indicators, mark indicators from the teacher, so that they could proceed with the next level, might lose interest in that might lose the focus in the educational context, become more addicted to that whistles and warnings given by the teacher to move on to the next level. And sometimes a high quality gamified content demands a lot of technology, or it might be very expensive to make it to of a good quality, adding game elements and creating a good gamified method of delivering content might be expensive sometimes also, so cannot be utilized by many people. There are many educational institutions. And the next one, the last one is it might have a clash with the different learning styles among the students because some of them might not be interested in this kind of having badges and leaderboards and trying to compete. There is no necessity that the entire class might enjoy this scenario. There might be group of students who might not like this way of learning. So this mismatch in learning styles might lead to frustration to those students and who want a traditional way of learning and the analytical method of study instead of these gamified elements being added, game elements being added and the teaching being gamified. So these are the key drawbacks of gamification. And it is left to the decision of the teacher to know whether that gamification could help the teacher to get the attention of the students, whether the topic that the teacher is having in hand suits well with the gamification that the teacher has to decide. And based on that decision, the teacher could proceed with designing a gamified way of delivering content. So these benefits, of course, it's being said from the beginning of this session, but the drawbacks also need to be kept in mind while designing a gamified way of teaching a content. So, what is the best practice then of using gamification? We have to align game elements with learning objectives. So that alignment, as I said, whether the topic has a scope for this gamified way of teaching or the topic is too complex, which needs a lot of critical thinking or reflection, and then such topic, it's very tough to design a gamified way of teaching such topics. So the objective and the game elements need to be aligned, and providing feedback is very important. That leads to learning. So we should be able to provide meaningful feedback to each and every step that students do in that gamified teaching, and then reward effort as well as achievement. So rewards are not restricted to the achievers. it is also to be given to the people who make efforts. So accordingly, the teacher should design it in such a way that reward is being given even to people who, to students who make an effort, not to only to the students who have achieved whatever target they have fixed. And the activities need to be inclusive. It should not have any bias, like only boys should do this or girls need not participate. That kind of discrimination should not be there. It should be inclusive so that our entire team can participate together. And we should see to that when designing a gamified way of teaching that excessive competition is not there. As said, it is one of the key drawback of this method of teaching, where that competitive, toxic competitive environment might spoil that supportive learning environment. So we should avoid excessive competition or reward focused learning. It is not that reward that is more important, but learning is important. So reward should come because the learning being displayed, and should not be the reverse where the award matters more than the learning. So these things are to be kept in mind while practicing gamification of a topic when when we engage in a gamified way of teaching. So the conclusion, we could conclude that gamification increases engagement and motivation. Yes, it helps in engaging the students, and it supports meaningful and active learning, because why active? The students are doing a lot of activities as a team and as an individual. So a lot of activities going on, and they are not passive. They are not remaining passive. They are actively learning something. And focus should remain on learning outcomes, so with appropriate feedbacks and less competitive environment being created. And gamification teaching also have some risks and challenges, as we discussed the drawbacks that has to be kept in mind. So with this introduction to this method of teaching a lesson, it is left to the hands of the teacher to decide whether a topic is good enough for gamifying and then include the game elements. Thank you and happy learning.